Hey there, for those here. This video is going to be on the Natalya Reign of Vengeance build for solo high-level greater rifts. A lot of people have been asking about it. There's a handful of different variations, a couple flexible slots that you can kind of decide what you want to do with. This is going to be just what I think is best. I'm going to explain why I'm choosing what I have and things like that. So you got the key is the Reign of Vengeance. This is doing massive amounts of damage, combined with the Natalya's, reducing the cooldown, increasing the damage, as well as the belt here triggering for massive amounts of damage. So this is what hits really, really hard. This is modified by the Natalya bonus, so it hits for just 5 to 10 billion, depending on how optimized you are, how much brain damage you have, and things like that. So anyways, you got this here. It's going to be doing the knockback, which is going to offer very good utility by crowd controlling the monsters. Kind of prevents them from really being overly aggressive, so makes the build much more stable than some of the unhallowed builds for the higher level greater rift solo demon hunter. And then we got strafe here just to reduce the cooldown on the Reign of Vengeance. The tick frequency helps that. Got displacement here for the movement speed, the survivability, smokescreen displacement. I have seen people run lingering fog, but the movement speed from displacement is just really clutch. So definitely recommend displacement. Helps you get out of stuff and move around, even skip packs and things like that. Got the wolf companion here for the damage, obviously for the burst. This combined with ambush and call of the weak, steady aim. You hit just like a truck, especially right at the start. Get a nice wolf, helps you burn the elites down quickly. The faster you kill them, the less likely they are to kill you. Focus mind here for the discipline. This is just going to help you cast displacement, smokescreen more often. And then we have evasive fire here. This is going to be doing a few things. Generating hatred is one, reducing the cooldown on your rain is another. As you're strafing, you're going to want to mix in evasive fire basically as often as you can, and this is the fastest way to reset the cooldown on the Reign of Vengeance, alternating between strafing and attacking. And I'll get into more of that later. We got awareness here for the cheat death, and then just straight damage. So ambush, steady aim, call the weak, the standard go-to damage passives. I do have archery on my Hellfire, so with the dual wield that's giving me a little bit of hatred and crit chance, which is nice. Obviously not mandatory. There's a handful of necklaces that are going to do very well, and this is not really ideal rolls here, so just kind of using that. That's the best thing I have to work with for now. So that's the spec. The swing slot is basically this one here. The skill, you can do a number of different things. Some people run Vengeance from the shadows for the crowd control, and then also the other one that I like is the Fan of Knives, Fan of Daggers, also for the crowd control, just to kind of stun stuff. I do really like the Companion a lot. I have seen people also run Vault, using Smokescreen and Vault to like skip packs and things like that. The thing about that is, like, if you get a decent map, you're not going to need both Smokescreen and Vault. And for this build, Smokescreen is much better because you're able to strafe while avoiding the damage, and so you got the slot there for the wolf or the Fan of Knives. Those are the two that I would recommend to put here. But just kind of see what you prefer there. I definitely like the burst from the wolf. Whenever you get everything rolling, you hit really, really hard while you have that up. And because you have such high cooldown reduction, which I'll get to when I talk about the itemization here in a second, you have a lot of uptime on the wolf. So it definitely helps a lot. So now let's move on to the loot. Obviously you need the Natalya 6-piece, so that's going to include all of the pieces except for the finger, the ring, because you need the focus and restraint. The damage offered from the focus and restraint is just too good to pass up, so you want to take advantage of that. Combined with the Natalya damage bonuses, all these damage modifiers add up, and that's what's going to give you the high damage potential. So, and the priority for stats is cooldown reduction. Basically, everywhere you can get cooldown reduction, you're going to want to get max cooldown reduction. So you got the weapon, 10 cooldown reduction here. And this is one of the reasons why you kind of want to dual wield with this setup. Quivers can't get cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction is extremely valuable to the build. So it's going to put the one-hander at an advantage to get that extra 10 cooldown reduction roll. Others, desirable stats, if you can get resource reduction's okay. I would probably rather that to be elite damage or something actually, damage potential right there on the calamity. The weapon here, this one's actually good. It could have more damage. Obviously the range of dimensions could be higher, but well-rolled weapon. The Natalya Slayer is pretty easy to get. They always roll with pretty good stuff, so you just roll the cooldown on there. Should be good to go. The jewelry, dual crit, cooldown reduction is going to be the dream here. This is a really good ring for the setup, and if I could have the dexterity on this ring be cooldown reduction, that would be preferred. The gloves, dual crit, cooldown reduction, same thing here. The shoulders, this I would like the life regen to be Rain of Vengeance and cooldown reduction. And these shoulders are kind of hard to get with what you want because they only have one random roll. You have to get that roll to land with cooldown or Rain of Vengeance, that way you can roll the other one on there. Anyways, the shoulders are really good. The cheat death, it's like a 10 to 25% chance, I'm not exactly sure, but it definitely, sometimes you'll get a hot streak, sometimes it won't happen, but having it, even one death saved in a rift is going to add up to give you some time. Sometimes you'll get 3 or 4 in a one rift, so it definitely makes a difference. The helmet, the vitality here could be strafe damage. Strafe is not a significant portion of the damage, but it is doing, hundreds of millions of damage per second, so it does add up. And the vitality is not really helping you. If you get hit, you're going to die, so I would definitely recommend the strafe helmet. Strafe damage on the helmet, crit chance, socket for the cooldown. And the cloak here, Rain of Vengeance, and then just stats. I suppose the vitality could be hatred regen, and that would be better, preferred. The belt here, just standard rolls. The only thing that's actually important on the belt is the rain damage modifier, so it ranges 3,000 to 4,000, and you want that to be closer to 4,000. Pants, just dexterity, standard rolls there. On the boots, you get the option for strafe damage. I do usually recommend the strafe damage. As I mentioned, it's not significant, but it does add up, and it's going to be better than just a couple decks. And the strong arm bracers, this is going to be key for your damage potential. You do want to get a pair of these combined with the rain. You're going to get that damage modifier because the stampede is going to knock them back, and they're going to take more damage. Strong arm's good for that. The necklace, as I mentioned, I have the Hellfire. Any decent Hellfire with a good passive could be useful. Other good necks are going to be pretty standard for the Demon Hunter. Any immunity neck. Sometimes I run with this one. The SEO hunt is also not bad. I just don't really have good rolls here on these, so I'm using the Hellfire. This one mostly with this setup for the hatred regen and the crit chance, because I have low crit chance, so helps kind of balance out. So I think that's it for the loot. As I mentioned, the priority is cooldown reduction. Number 1, Rain of Vengeance damage on your shoulders, chest, strafe damage on your helm and boots. And then paragon points, I went with hatred, and then movement speed, and then dexterity. And offense, I would start with cooldown reduction, obviously, and then your crit modifier is probably crit chance first because you're dual wielding, crit damage, and then attack speed last. Sometimes you don't even go into the attack speed, depending on where you're at. It could just drain your hatred and not actually help you. So, a lot of times I just leave that unspec'd. But all res, armor, life percent here. Standard paragon, resource reduction, and area damage, life on hit. So that's the spec. Okay, so now let's talk about the legendary gems. There is some variety and flexibility here as well. I'm running the Zeta Stone of Vengeance for the damage and the stun, Bane of the Trapped for the damage, and then Ice Blink to trigger Bane of the Trapped, Call of the Week, and for the crit chance. So I'm a little low on crit chance, so I'm using that. And with Evasive Fire and casting that often, it's going to keep the Call of the Week and the Bane of the Trapped up as well. And it's quite effective to gain those damage modifiers through that gem. If you're on non-season, obviously this isn't going to be an option until the end of the season. So some alternatives for that gem slot is going to be the Gogok of Swiftness. Cooldown reduction is extremely strong for the build. So this gem is a contender even on seasonal. You can, get the Bane of the Trap trigger and the Call of the Week trigger another way. A couple other different ways to go about doing that. Usually the Templar, as I've mentioned in the past, the Templar is actually a really good source of slow. He has this ability here. Anybody he hits or has hit him, they get slowed. So if he's in there tanking, also you have, if you put a Bull Catalyst on him, it gives him a little aura, and that aura is going to trigger the slow. So he is really effective at doing that. Also, you got the Frieza deflection, just stack block chance on the follower through the token and the shield, and get a high chance to freeze through that. And also the Johan, the pull here is going to slow them as well. So you can get quite good uptime with the Templar through these abilities. Also the Thunder Fury is an option for the weapon. I've been preferring the Jangdu here for the stun. I mean, attacking enemies below 20% life freezes them for 3 seconds. This is just silly. It ranges 17 to 20%. This helps so much on like yellow elites and the Rift Guardian specifically. A lot of the Rift Guardians kind of have like an enrage or a frenzy at about 25% health. So all you have to do is burst from 25 to 20%, and then your follower just locks them out. So really good there. Another gem I've seen people run is the Taeguk. I have down here. The reason that I choose not to run the Taeguk is mostly just because the Ice Blink is offering more utility. The Ice Blink allows you to get your Call of the Week and Bane of the Trapped uptime to 100% without having to worry about your follower. But you can substitute the Ice Blink for the Taeguk as well, as I mentioned, or the Gogok. The optimal stats, you're going to end up around 50% cooldown reduction, some fire damage, some strafe damage, some rain damage, just from Paragon, in fact. So there you go, that's the build a lot of people have been seeing around the top of the leaderboard. I wanted to go ahead and just kind of make a little guide and talk about it. Now I'm going to show a little bit of gameplay and kind of talk about some of the techniques as you're playing. You want to start out, throw your Rain of Vengeance, start strafing, and it's kind of like a stutter step while strafing thing going on. You strafe back a little, shoot forward, strafe back, shoot forward, and while you're doing that, you want to be casting your Rain of Vengeance. Using the Rain of Vengeance to knock the monsters back, kind of hold them in place a little bit, as well as doing damage. And it's a little rough with the mobs here. But that's one of the good things about this build. It's very forgiving. It's very stable. You can deal with a lot of problematic mob types that some of the unhallowed builds kind of struggle with. So for the solo, it's definitely a nice change of pace from the unhallowed to run this. So as you're strafing around, you kind of manage your resources and use your wolf as much as possible. Basically, just every time it's on cooldown, you want to use it. I'm still a little unfamiliar with the build, so I'm not exactly playing flawlessly by any means. Only have a few hours of experience with the build, but it is not terribly difficult once you kind of get the hang of the strafing and stutter stepping while strafing kind of mechanic. It flows actually pretty smoothly, and you just kind of keep pushing the monsters back into more monsters and strafing around in circles, kiting backwards. And the other thing you're able to do is actually skip monsters even without vault. I'm using displacement for the movement speed, so it's something you can do with the build as you're pushing monsters back. If you kind of like skip into like a little corner, you can kind of hide in that corner and knock the monsters back away from you. And you don't want to let any monsters get near you. If you have to fall back and push them forward, that's what you got to do. Because as soon as you get monsters near you and behind you, it's bad. So you'll see here I kind of go way back to try to push him forward. And at this point he's just dead. I mean, the damage burst is crazy. Like, I'm not even well optimized. My gear, I'm missing a lot of damage potential in Reign of Vengeance modifiers and better rolls on basically all of the loot that I'm using. So it's a work in progress for me, but as I mentioned, a lot of people have been asking about the build, and the information's out there, but I just wanted to kind of go ahead and make a video, walk you guys through it, share this with you. And I will say that it's definitely, the performance of the build is definitely much more consistent. Your success rate in the Rift Clear is going to be higher, even though the damage potential might be a little bit lower than Unhallowed. It's just got so much more utility and survivability that it might end up being a better build for solo specifically. So there you go, that's the build, a little rundown on what's going on, what people are using to push greater rifts. And the build is easier to optimize as well. You don't need like a god tier Crider shot, which is seriously rare, and the meticulous bolts as well. Extremely rare items for the lightning build. This is a more stable build and easier to build and optimize, so it's a good choice. Hope this helps you guys. See you guys next time. Thanks for watching.